I
Yeah,
really like this
so,
all on my Mac
and I'm on,
instead. I had them figure out how to get the email on
but
my
this is
Mac.
work.
Oh, on
This
the
is what's
yeah, I
messed up.
have everything on my. It makes
So,
it's
yeah, it's
super
just so much
You're into
convenient.
easier.
things that I do not have.
And I thought, well, we can do double. So the advantage of,
Brentwood
they don't
AV,
use our bus, they don't use our driver. Once their bus is full, they don't take a
a little
waiting
A,
list. So when you say, well,
little
did you
AV,
have enough on the waiting list to get
Capital
another
A,
bus? They go,
little,
oh, there
just
was no one on the
little,
waiting
sorry,
list.
it looks like a capital. And
Because they
then
didn't offer it to people.
the number 4,
AB4.
and then a capital B, Brentwood.
Possibly.
It?
We'll never know.
Okay.
I've been on the wait list several times. They never got back to me that I moved up or wasn't anything. I just assumed I wasn't
Network
going.
security key.
But
Again.
no,
4,
we're paying part of their salary, and it's not good use of our money. Did see a friend I haven't seen in 6 months. One of my an old friend was in the group. I haven't seen her in
Okay.
6 months, so it was a nice morning, except for being upset that I don't like the way our program monies are being used.
Oh.
I want to ask Nancy about this Park Ridge Alley. Have you driven down and looked at it?
Is that one of the streets is
It
on the?
looks, yeah, it's one of the four. It's between two houses. It doesn't go anywhere.
oh, it's that one.
It goes past the house. Why should we tear this up and pave it to go to nothing?
Is it probably because? I mean, it's a good question to ask, but my gut reaction, that not substantiated, is that somewhere along the line we took control of painting it, and now it's our baby.
Now it's ours, but why don't we decide we don't need this and maybe
Gonna do this,
pass it
so-
off to something? It's a liability. It doesn't do anything for us.
Word docs with that?
If things aren't working for something, then get rid of them. So Nancy?
Until tonight, right? Ready when you are. Okay. So I call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting. If we get a roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims,
Here.
Alderman Leahy,
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Here,
and Alderwoman Parker Tice.
Here.
Item number 2 on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. And I'll entertain a motion to
Accept
approve.
as submitted.
second.
Can we do that by acclamation? Okay, so that's approved by acclamation. Item number 3, announcements, appointments, proclamations, recognitions. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 4 is citizen comment. We'll open it up to the gallery. If anyone would like to come forward, you may do so now. All right, seeing none, barreling right along. Item number 5, report of committee chair and alderman. I don't have a report, but I have a question that's not on the agenda, and I thought this might be a time where I might bring it up. So at the public safety meeting, we discussed policies regarding, when a car clotter would flee and the extent to, pursuit policy and the extent to which that might be controlled or governed by our insurance. And then I was wondering if we could, and I don't really know about our insurance, I know that Slate, I think, covers us, but is there, and part of this is honing my appropriate question to ask. Can we do a review of, what our insurance coverage is, what it costs? Because then I got out the Google machine and, I'm not sure, as far as, the participants of Slate, are we in a risk pool that, is that appropriate, only from, maybe there are some municipalities who have higher exposure than we do. And maybe what we have right now is great and we shouldn't change it. But that was,
So you want us to bring that back to Ways and Means next meeting, perhaps?
if that's, I don't know if
You can
what
do
I'm,
that.
I don't know if what I'm asking for
It's possible.
takes more than 30 days. So I wanted to
I will
be
rely
simple-
heavily on Daniel and Henry
Okay.
to help us put that presentation together. And we just went through a renewal for all our coverage, property, police, liability, general auto, health, workers' comp. So we just went through that process with Slate. And, costs are always going up because we always have claims. The benefit of being part of Slate, St. Louis Area Insurance Trust, is there are approximately 27 municipalities, so we have these combined lives. Therefore, hopefully our premiums are going down, and we see that in health. This is the best coverage we could ever hope to have if we were doing it individually, because the costs were always going up. And perhaps you recall that sometimes we bring back checks to the city from having a good year in Slate. And I don't remember what the percentage of our premium going up would be for 19 into 20, but it's lower than the market. So from a health perspective, being part of Slate has been great for the city. Now, dental is not part of that. We still are with Delta Dental, and oftentimes we renew without any increases. But because we have claims, workers' compensation, people getting injured on the job, those claims continue to increase. But we can bring all of that back. But as to the pursuit policy, because we were beginning to see an increase in the number of incidents that were happening where police officers were either getting killed or getting severely injured in other municipalities. Some had to do with maybe not enough due diligence when you're arresting people and, putting them in the back seat. But others have been chasing and the resulting action from chasing, which means the other party's losing their lives, which is why there was a resolution of all the members that the police departments would adopt a no pursuit policy. And if you, as a municipality, would choose not to do so, then you would need to submit a written notice 6 months ahead of the time where you're seeking to pull out of Slate, so that, you've given sufficient notice, and then you can go find coverage for everything else, because you can't just pull out of one policy, you have to pull out of all.
And is that in fact, I mean, my bailiwick in insurance is more, property and casualty, because I sue people, or I defend people who get sued. And, can you not unbundle that at all? Can you not, use State Farm for property and casualty?
I
and
don't
keep-
know any municipality that
I don't even
uses
know if
State
that's the right
Farm.
thing.
I know,
I
but
would
there
like to know.
are firms out there that would respond to a bid, and those are the different firms that, municipality, we would hire a broker, and then that broker would help us bid it out and then make a recommendation, similar to what Horner Schifrin does when we go out for bids. They would look at the submittal and make sure it's apple to apples comparison. So we used to do that in Brentwood, but many, many years ago, prior to me coming on board, the city decided to be part of Slate. What was happening before was, I think we had an alderman who was in the insurance business, and then the rest of the story.
He brokered
He
us
brokered it,
through it
yeah.
because that was what he did for a living.
Chairwoman Sims, I have a question. So how long have we been in Slate, and do we competitively compare the rates that we're offered from them with other people? Do we put that out for bid ever? Do we have that on a cycle that we do?
Every year, not the service that Daniel and Henry provides, but the insurance coverage, we competitively bid that every year for every municipality through Slate.
But my question is, does Brentwood compare, like, competitively bid what we get from Slate versus what we would get elsewhere?
Because
And-
they're already doing it. It would be a duplication.
Yeah, but my question is,
We don't.
yeah,
We do
like,
not.
do we look at what Slate is versus what someone else to do it comprehensively?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We
Is
haven't-
that-
we haven't
Is
done
that something that should be done on a regular basis? I mean,
I personally don't see a need for it, because I see it's a duplication. That's what they're doing for the city by us being a member of Slate. Unless maybe you raise the question that they're not doing their due diligence enough.
I have no
So-
idea. I'm new. I've been with other organizations that regularly compare the current insurance and bid out and see what other insurance could be. And sometimes they stay and sometimes they don't. So I just didn't know if that was the best.
Typically, when you go out to bid on the city by themselves and not as a group, it's going to be astronomically
yeah.
higher
Yeah.
than the group, particularly with the 29 or whatever, how
27
many
plus,
cities,
yeah.
27 cities. And that's from experience in another, not here, but in another state. And we did the same thing there when went in with a group, so that, and another thing Slate does is, just because another city has really high claims, but we
That's- I'll
don't,
Also, I'll
but we
dance around
don't,
it, but
we
we've
get
had-
Slate premium refunds back
that's
based
a
on our,
risk pool. I don't know what it would be in.
our own history. So last year, we got $64,000 back. Every year I've been here, we've gotten more than we thought we were gonna get back. And they base that, it's not just the previous year, it's like maybe 5 years ago or something. They get the claims in and look at that, and then, some people, I don't know if they have to pay more, but they certainly
pay
don't
more,
get, they don't get a refund.
Because
Claims
their claims history
were high.
are high. Classes, because the departments that we experience a lot of claims are fire, police. So we
Gotta pick up a box or.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds in it tonight. I guess my question is, can we get information about, the insurance and where we, the merits and the pros and the cons and the.
Excuse me, Bola, I don't believe your microphone is on.
As a matter of fact, I talked to them again this morning, so they can come to a meeting and give a presentation, a little history on Daniel and Henry, Slate, and what our premiums look like maybe over the past 3 years. So we can do that.
And the various companies that like for one thing, I know we use Travelers. For another one,
Chubb.
Chubb. We use Thomas McGee for something else, but that's all under the umbrella of Slate.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving on, Alderman Leahy, any reports? Alderwoman O'Neill?
Not exactly a report. Not exactly a report, but I will be out of the country on our next meeting date. I may try to Skype in, but I don't know if that's possible. So if anyone else has a
When is
problem.
our next meeting date
Septem-
is September 5th,
Yeah.
is that right?
Thursday?
That is the first Thursday of September.
If there's a quorum without me, that's fine.
Alderwoman Parker Tice?
No report.
All right, moving along, item number 6, city administrator reports.
I have nothing.
Okay, item number 7, department report.
'Cause we do not have the financials yet because it's early in the year, the month, and we don't have everything reconciled yet, so.
Item number 8 is the consent agenda, and the only item on the consent agenda is the item A, which are the minutes from July 10, 2019. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
No,
Yes.
they weren't
they're
on
here.
my thing.
They're on there
They're
right
on there.
now.
I'm on right now and it still shows.
up here.
You have to scroll.
Oh, you go upward, not
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
I kept
different
go-
than the other ones.
I kept going to the bottom, there's nothing there.
Well, if there's
So-
not an icon, maybe in the future, if you can put that little icon next to the minutes, that would clue us in the minutes up there.
Well, and I have a question about the minutes. Well, maybe while Andy's reading them, I could ask my question.
Thank you.
So in the minutes, in the comments by the former mayor, he made a comment that, what's written here is that $303,200 was returned from the fund that was supporting Brentwood Bound back to the project. Is that right?
I think it was 3,000.
3,000. So there's an so could I amend the minutes that the word 100 it says $303,200. So it's probably, is it 300 or 3,200? Yeah, so the words 300 need to be stricken. Okay, I thought I just found $300,000 and I thought it was nuts.
I read that too and thought, that's a lot more money than I thought that.
Yeah, I'm
they
like,
had
how did
turned
they
over.
raise that much money? Okay.
Need a formal motion for that, or what? I mean, we'll submit as amended. So yes, we do. So I guess motion to amend.
Second.
Well, we
the
don't have a
minutes.
motion on the floor. I move we approve the minutes. And with the change to remove the words 300 under number 11, citizen comment.
Second.
All right, all those, any discussion? I guess all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or do we need a voice vote? I don't, or not. Okay, great. So those are approved as amended. Item 9, old business. Part A, who's got that? Dan, come on down.
If you remember from the last meeting, we talked about the base bid streets as well as the bid alternates. And we had met with Public Works as well to discuss this. So last time we met with Ways and Means, the discussion that we were directed to follow was to look at the bids and figure out what we could do for the amount of money that we have in the budget, which is roughly $61,000. So in order to do swim club, which is a little over $52,000, we can't do any other streets in the base bid if that's the direction, is to do swim club. And the lowest and most responsive bid for swim club was from Krupp Construction. So for us to move forward with that, we would need a motion to accept Krupp's bid, and then we would also need to reject the other base bids, and then we'll have to evaluate those when we look at the rest of the street conditions and figure out how to weave those in future budget cycles, without a budget amendment, that is.
Question that we asked from the last meeting was, if we went down this avenue, the 4 streets that would not be done this year, are they in a condition that would put them as a priority ahead of swim club versus, no, I can get them into next year and not create a problem?
Right, we did look at swim club. Swim club is in the worst condition
Condition.
as far as the surface, as far as pitting, alligator cracks, potholing, that sort of thing. So the other ones, to answer your question, you could defer those because they're in better shape.
Thank you. That's where I was looking to go.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
I have 2 questions. One is that we were saying we have now taken care of every street in the city, or we will with this. But Strassner is not good. The rest of the streets in Hanley Industrial have not been done. Where are they in this plan? We do plan to
Those
do
were
them.
some of those that you're mentioning are actually in that or in the bid alternate rather. So if you look at that alternate, there's Strassner Drive, there's Little Fishes, there's, what else? Ice Cream Specialties. So right in front of Ice Cream Specialties, where the road kind of splits and warps around that and then hooks back towards Metro Lighting, there's several slabs that we identified that need to come out. But if you look at the cost on that one for Ice Cream Specialties, I mean, the lowest was, what, 130-something thousand, and then the others were in the mid-hundreds to low twos.
But the whole park needs to be redone.
The asphalt does, yeah.
Yes, so that's what I'm after. Is there any plan for us to do that, rather than just remediating certain areas? Is there a plan to redo that as we have done the other city streets?
I want to answer her question first.
Okay.
Whoever.
To answer your question, yes, that's why we're evaluating that. That's why we put it in here. We wanted to know what would it cost, so we would have an actual tangible number that we can then put into the budget and then place it somewhere in the 5-year capital.
For the whole complex there, not just.
Well, not for all of Hanley Industrial. There's no way you would replace that. That would be in the millions.
So that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is at some point, we need to do that. We've done it for the rest of the city. You have an
Part of
answer?
Hanley Industrial Court is not owned by the city. The court owns its own, some of its own roads.
There's,
Okay.
yeah,
We have
few.
fixed the portions that were city-owned and maintaining the other ones that are coming. But the court has its own responsibility. That's why you don't see a thing that says all of Hanley Industrial Court's getting done.
Okay. Is that also why we can't push for a name change and put
That is
names to those
separate.
streets?
There are some streets in Hanley Industrial Court
That we
that
do
are
have
not owned
Right.
by the city, they're privately owned. So the ones that are owned by the city, over time, we will address them like we did city streets. But the issue over naming, changing the name of Hanley Industrial Court, I will discuss that with Lisa, and
Okay.
we'll bring that back
And
up.
naming the streets, even if it's
It's-
north and
yeah,
south, it would
included.
still be a plus. The other question, can I keep going? We were just discussing this Park Ridge Alley that doesn't go anywhere. Seems to be a waste of city money. And since it would only be a walking path to a park if, I don't know if Eric has firmed up plans, if there's anything for the Mount Calvary area to be used as a park. That seems to be the only use for that land as far as the city goes. Would it be possible to look into taking that property and giving it to the neighbors, selling it for $1, whatever.
I
Since it does
believe
not
the-
benefit us at all.
The city attorney has issued, and we talked about this in staff meeting. I don't remember how he phrased it, but I think his recommendation would not be to do that.
Us.
There could be a need for the city at a later date.
We don't have any other alleys that go into the middle of any other block, anyplace else in the city.
Oh, yes, we do.
Where?
My area of town.
Really?
Yes.
So they have a city thing that goes into the middle of the block and goes nowhere else?
Yes, because it was never fully developed. They developed one block of it and left the other 2 blocks alone and never did anything.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
That's part of why we asked the group to budget a survey group to come in and literally go through and identify all of these different areas that we have easements or actually own strips that we're not even 100% aware of. And that was in into the budget, and we're working on the biddings to get that through, so next year we can get somebody hired to do that
Do that.
search.
And I thought trying to figure out who owned Swim Club Lane was the major thing in this. This is amazing.
We spent 3
Okay.
years on that one.
I know, I was aware of that one. Okay.
I have a question. I'm kind of confused. So is the proposal that we would table these 4 streets in preference to Swim Club Lane? That we would do the Swim Club Lane and not, I'm looking at Brentwood and Strassner and Urban. I mean, full disclosure, I live around here and I drive on these streets every day. Is that what's really being floated?
To stay within budget, correct, because you only have $61,000. So the question becomes, to stay within that budget constraint, after you've done swim club, you're left with roughly $8,700. There's no way you can make any of these other projects come down to $8,700.
But these streets were budgeted for 2019, right?
That is correct,
And Swim Club Lane was not budgeted for 2019.
correct.
They effectively got out of the deli line and I guess in my view, like went back to the end of the line. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was
don't-
put, it's in the 5-year capital, it was pushed to 2023 for swim club.
Why are we prioritize, like, why is Swim Club Lane getting the special treatment? I am not a member of this
Answer
pool,
that.
It
So,
belongs to the
I
spring
mean-
club.
so the streets that were in the budget have already been milled and overlaid. So what we are attempting to do, Dan, correct me, is to put the sealant. Is that the technical term?
Swim club would actually be mill and overlay.
No, I wasn't talking about swim club, all the other streets.
No, these other ones are mill and overlay.
These streets have been
They've
milled and
been,
overlaid?
yes, they've been
In the
milled and
past.
overlaid in the past. So they're in great condition. We just want to preserve the life of those streets greater than 20 years. So if we defer that to next year or the year after, there's not going to be a major impact to those roadway. But the opportunity to do swim club, because we are limited in funds, now if we had known that the desire from swim club and others that were part of that conversation was that we would budget for it this year, then we probably would have done that. But we didn't, I didn't know. And I presume you didn't know either.
No.
Okay.
I guess I don't like the idea. It's like the swim club knows people, and so they get to go ahead on the line. I mean,
I don't
it
know
just
that
seems-
it's that,
It seems inherently like
It does seem-
because you
unfair.
have said
Like,
that. That's not, I hope that's not what this is.
I mean, why are we giving them that courtesy?
Because it was in the budget last year.
Yeah, it actually was in the budget last year.
But they opted not to.
Because they were doing
Exercise that
renovation,
budget
right. And they
last
were
year.
under the impression that we would budget for it again. But, you know, we really didn't even know when their project would be completed.
Right, and it was actually in better shape before they did their work, but because they had so many vehicles in and out of there, I mean, they redid the parking lot, they redid the kiddie pool. There's a lot of heavy truck traffic that road never saw before. You know, an occasional full-size SUV, that's about it. But I mean, there were cement trucks, you name it.
I mean, I'm sure this private club is in great condition. I mean, I mean, our budgets aren't secret. I mean, we knew that these streets were on the list and those weren't. I mean, why? I mean, it's philosophical and not monetary for me. I mean,
It became an issue with what happened with the money you budgeted in the 2018 budget, where you covered the swim club road, but you didn't use it did that money stay available so that when they finished their construction, you could come in? But we didn't we never carried it in. So they were told, if you go ahead and do your project and tear up the road, we'll fix the road afterwards instead of doing a
Did
new
we
one.
say that? Did
It
we
wa-
say we'd do
that-
that?
That was part of the promise.
I missed-
We didn't want to do it and have you
I
tear
don't
up a
think
new
I
road.
voted on a resolution that said that.
No,
Did we say that?
this was in the private discussions that Mayor Thornton brought to us last month.
I don't think that's.
Mayor-
I don't think a private discussion unwritten, is enforceable against the city. I
It,
mean,
it's not. It's a matter of what do you want to do with this year's budget? Stay to the budget, do all 4 streets, you'll exceed your allotted, and then do swim club. Or do just swim club with what you budgeted and move these 4 streets to the 2020 budget.
or do these 4 streets
Streets,
and
yeah.
move swim club to the 2020
2020,
budget.
yes, yes, you could do, you have 3 choices.
There isn't sufficient money to
Correct.
do all 4 streets.
Yeah, the 4 base bids, if you look, it's 122,414. So you still need roughly 61,000 to pay West if you're going to hire West, which would be the apparent low bidder.
Okay,
And then you wouldn't be able to do swim club unless you wanted to, have another budget amendment for that 52,000.
I'm not sure Brentwood is all that big a problem. I drive that a lot. That's not on my radar as being horrible. Neither is Strassner. Maybe Urban needs it, but obviously Park Ridge Alley doesn't. So if we picked out one to do and picked out Urban,
Urban is in worse shape. I agree with that. And we were trying to dovetail them to be closer in age so that whenever you would do them 10 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe you would do the whole thing.
together.
Instead of piecemeal, we've crept along Urban, Strassner, and left the piece out from like the county right away to the YMCA. And now we're trying to fill in that little puzzle piece.
One anyway, even if we didn't do the other.
So what is being asked of us tonight? Do you want it to
So the recommendation is to use those funds for swim club.
and not the other streets?
Exactly. I think the request was
Stay
to
within
go
the
back and evaluate the request for those 4 streets and determine whether they can be deferred to a later time. And I think the conclusion is that they can be.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think I'm not for that, but I'm not going to keep it from going to the board,
Well,
so.
my 2 cents is, I'm not a swim club member, but I'm over there on foot all the time, and that road is horrible. Like, I run on there, I'm worried I'm gonna fall. I don't like to run on the path because I've seen a coyote once, so I run on the road part. And it's really dangerous. So, if that's used as a thoroughfare from the different parks, that seems to be the worst street that we're responsible for. Was it done the right way? No. Should it have been in the budget? Yes. Like, I feel like I agree with everything you said, like philosophically, do I agree that we should put that one off till next year because it wasn't done the right way? Absolutely. But it's in really bad shape. So I feel like that's the one that needs resurfacing most.
I'll make the motion that we take $52,198.66, accept the bid from Krupp Construction and do just Swim Club Road, mill and overlay, and defer the other 4 streets to the 2020 budget.
Can I
Motion's been
amend
made.
that
Do we-
and defer the other streets for further discussion? Because if it says for the budget, does that automatically put them in the budget?
I would say if you would entertain changing that, not to year specific, as just say future budgets. Because then there are other streets that Dan would evaluate as well. And reprioritize them perhaps. I don't know. Dan, what do you think?
I agree with that only because, say, ice cream specialties becomes worse, and now you have to bite the bullet and spend, a couple $100,000 to replace the concrete, because that's actually a good shortcut to go, from Deerberg's, loop around, come up to Target.
Constantly.
I do too, and I was like, well, the other one, no offense to the folks that would use Urban, because I know it goes back to the apartments, but, that might be a lower priority.
But Dan,
You know,
don't
we can look at a cost-benefit analysis if that helps, make a decision rather than just all dollars.
But
Yeah.
doesn't your department come to the budget arrangement by evaluating all the streets and saying, these are the ones that need this year's
Right, we do have a
calendar
ranking system. CBB originally did
Yeah,
the
to work with?
assessment.
Now, these 4 streets, as Alderman,
Sims.
no, O'Neill pointed out, are the last 4 streets out of all of them that we have yet to do.
Right, with the exception of Hanley Industrial, and that, we were trying to focus on the residential, because
Yes.
that's where the majority of your complaints are, and Hanley Industrial's concrete, which it tends, we can actually fix that a little bit easier. You might have to saw cut out a little area and report.
That's why I'm staying with a 2020 request to budget to finish up all the residential streets instead of letting them get lost in a shuffle. But
We have finished all the residential streets. What we're doing is sealing. Is that correct?
no, these are
We
all
haven't?
mill and
These would
overlays
actually
on
be
these
mill and
4.
overlay.
Oh, we,
That's
mill,
the way
oh,
they're
of the
done.
residential
Yeah.
streets?
These are
Just
the
these
4 that
little-
have yet to get done.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it was 9, we got down to 4.
Right.
I'd like to get the 4 done. That's why I'm putting the 2020 year.
okay.
I'm objecting because I still
Mm-hmm.
would like to hear more of the attorney's thinking. I am still not sure I want to allocate 1 cent for Park Ridge Alley. So if you say all 4 are in the next budget, that
Back
prohibits us.
to Ways and Means next meeting?
You can budget for it. That doesn't mean you have to spend it. It just means they don't lose their priority.
I see.
Move
Yeah.
along.
So let's add
Yeah,
that to.
that's what I'm trying to get to.
I'll second Andy's motion.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, so, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
and Alderwoman Parker Tice.
Yes.
Sure.
If the Swim Club Road is going to be part of the main trail from Rogers Parkway, from Brentwood bound, from all this, through the tunnel up there, if we redo it this year, will it have to be redone because of this, or will that be good as part of that trail for 20 years?
I don't know enough about the trail system
It,
going
it
to
will
the
be
north.
good for 20 years. It connects when you start to think the tunnel to to Dorothy, all the way Broughton Park.
Right.
So yes, it will stay good for 20 years.
We wouldn't have to redo it?
Yeah, I mean, asphalt, well, if that's what your question is for the condition of the material, then yes.
Okay.
And we could always, figure out a sealant for it too, to preserve it, to try to extend that useful life.
Yeah, okay. Because if runners are using it, and I use it to bike sometimes, it's already being used. So. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And do you have 10A too, the request proposal for recommendation for video recordings and services?
Oh,
for
That is
board?
Janet.
Yeah.
So that's new business, item 10.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So I'll give you a little background. I'm not sure if I know you haven't had a lot of time to review the memo and information I sent you about 4:30. So the background is that the city issued an RFP for video recording services for our board and committee meetings. That was prompted initially by the plan for the construction in City Hall for the customer service renovation. So during that construction for about 5 months, we won't be able to use this room for our meetings. So we have arranged with the Brentwood School District to use their conference center from September through January for all of the meetings. So it'll be the board meetings, Board of Aldermen, Public Safety, Public Works, Ways and Means from September through January. So we needed to really go out for bid to find a vendor who could help us video and audio record those meetings, also providing the equipment, because this equipment obviously stays in this building, in this room. So put together the RFP. The bids were due yesterday morning. We received 3 of those. So we've been reviewing those quickly but thoroughly to get you the information for tonight. And basically, if you have seen the table that I sent you, it kind of shows the comparison. And so the recommendation would be for your committee to recommend to the board to approve the vendor with the lowest bid amount, which was STLTV. STLTV is part of the communications division of the city of St. Louis. They're very familiar with these kinds of meetings. They do that all the time for the city. They were the lowest bid. We also considered their experience. I checked their references. So that is our recommendation.
Any questions?
Probably lower than the others.
Two of them were relatively close. One of you can tell was quite high.
Motion to approve the STL St. Louis bid and to do a first and second reading at the next Board of Aldermen meeting, which would be the September meeting, because we're too tight to make I thought we had a 15-day posting, or no?
No. It depends on how quickly they can turn around the agreement.
And there is a bit of urgency just because of the potential timing for the construction.
I'll second the motion.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
and Alderwoman Parker Tice.
Yes.
Passes.
Motion to adjourn?
Well,
I'm sorry,
item number 11, you can't rob me from reading off the list of the agenda. It's my big moment. Item number 11, citizen comments. Anyone? Okay, there are none.
Oh.
got one.
Oh, we've got one. The dog that caught the car.
Not a citizen of Brentwood. I do a great deal of business here. I'm a member of a local organization that has facilities here, and I am Rick's substitute when he is not here. Rick has been doing your aldermanic meetings for over a decade, I think. And, he put together a very serious bid for you guys, one that we thought was very competitive. And I just wanted to say that we would greatly regret losing that business. I don't know, if it all goes towards the low bid, I'm sure that the city of St. Louis will do a fine job for you. But I think that in general, Rick's done a good job for you for many years. I just wanted to put that out there.
If I may, I definitely want to support that. I don't want you to think that we're not happy with the service that Rick through Bluff City has provided. When our last person that was doing this for the city quit abruptly, Rick did come to my rescue to help us continue to record these meetings. However, I think we owe a responsibility to be, good caretakers of the city's money. So that's why the recommendation is for the low bid.
Closeness between the bids was not enough to be able to give them enough of a variance to say, yes, we can overlook the low bid. That's why I stayed with STL.
Okay, thank you. At this point, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all approved by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Go with my blessing. We're over.
Grab 18
And
minutes.
we've
to
got
grab
18
dinner.
minutes to get dinner.
Yeah, grab dinner.
That's right.